is it?
Dave, it's your Idaho Central app here. Any chance you're missing a debit card? Let's get that taken care of for you. With ICCU's card control, you can turn any card off with the tap of your finger.
You got it.
And back on again. Out, 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 out. The closest Idaho Central Credit Union branch is in your pocket.
Ooh, the gym. My old stomping grounds. Hank Patterson, fly fishing guide.
Riley Smith, tight end.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Hey, you wouldn't happen to be the kicker?
No, tight end.
Again, thank you. I'm looking for a kicker for Lithia Ford's fall kickoff sale. But you're not the kicker.
No.
Yeah. Nah, the kicker's probably taller and in a lot better shape. So, okay. What position do you play?
Tight end.
Squats. Yeah, try it sometime.
RowPaint.com, the official paint and coatings company of Boise State Athletics, is going all in this season with an all-star lineup. First up, he led the Broncos to 3 conference championships and 10 20-win seasons. It's Coach Leon Rice. Next, he's the founder and CEO of RowPaint.com. He played a little basketball in high school on the driveway with his mom. It's Andy Rowe.
Oh, no. Want to just paint my house?
Now that I can do. When I want Boise State to win, I trust Coach Rice to lead the Broncos to victory.
And when I want the best painting and garage floor coating, I trust RowPaint.com to get that job done right.
This is Bronco Nation News Live. The best interviews, the most informed opinions, the latest breaking news, all from the top Boise State insiders. Today's broadcast is coming from the Cutwater Spirits Canned Cocktail Studios. Check out one of their more than 30 flavors of pre-mixed premium cocktails at your local gas station or grocery store. Cutwater Canned Cocktails is perfect for your next game day tailgate party. Now, here's 4-time NSMA Idaho Sports Writer of the Year, BJ Rains, with another edition of Bronco Nation News Live.
Hey, Mike Prater, we're back. It's Monday, Bronco Nation News Live here at BroncoNationNews.com. We got the Sweet 16 matchup set. We got Boise State offseason to look ahead and talk about. We got spring football resuming tomorrow. We got pro day tomorrow. So people always say, what are you going to cover in the offseason? There's always stuff, and at least for the next 3-4 weeks, Mike Prater, we got football to help get us through. We got the transfer portal for basketball. We'll see who's going. We'll see who's coming. We got San Diego State is now the lone remaining Mountain West team. But spring, I guess the biggest and most exciting news is that spring break's over and my kids are out of the house.
That's always a big one for parents, BJ, and I appreciate that on Monday. You know, I'm one of those fidgeter guys. Like when I go to dinner, I play with the salt and pepper shakers. I fidget, so I always have these balls that I have with the show. And I usually pick the basketball or the football. And today I couldn't decide. So I got both because it's kind of a cross of 2 seasons. It's football and it's basketball season, and it's the best of both worlds. So, and you got the kids shipped off for school. Let's get after it today, BJ.
I joke. I love my kids. It's fun having them around. And we actually are making this might be the first time in history, and you can probably clip this off, Mike Prater, but we had our baseball team starting on a Friday. Both my kids are playing on the same team. I am the head coach, the manager, and our first game is Friday. Our jerseys are orange, so they did it differently this year. They pick different teams, and they pick different colors, I guess, and then they allow the kids to pick the team. So I gave the kids on our team about 5 different options of blue and orange teams: the Gators, the Broncos, I forget now, but I had about 5 different options of blue and orange for the kids to choose from, and Sure enough, for the first time in history, I might be saying "Go Broncos" this year, as the kids are the Meridian Broncos in the baseball team. So we'll see what happens. But I may have to I have a blue shirt now. It doesn't have a Boise State logo on it, but I now own a blue and an orange pullover, and I might be saying "Go Broncos" or something. So don't clip that off, JP.
We're gonna use that against you. We're gonna get more of that. We're gonna get some visuals. Let's get some pictures and some video of that. I can't wait to see that.
I gave the kids the choice, and of course, it was 9-1 or whatever when it was
Sure.
Gators. The New York. I was hoping it was going to be the New York Mets because that's what some of the players were last year. We were the Mets, and we have the same color scheme. So I was pushing for the Mets again, which I don't even like, but compared to Broncos, I would have probably taken. But go Broncos, I guess. 9U Meridian baseball. We'll see what happens. I'll make my. We went like 2-11 last year, so I'm hoping for a little better managerial. I got my first year managerial issues out of the way, and we're going to see if we can improve that next year. So that'll be helping me get through the next month or so, coaching my kids' baseball team, and we'll see what happens there. But speaking of coaching, Leon Rice, this coaching staff, I reported on social media yesterday. They're already working on the schedule for next year. And they're working on the roster as well. We already seen at least one report of Terrace Reed Jr., a big man from Michigan, who, ironically enough, Mike Prater, keep an eye on this kid. He was listed by about 30 schools that had already contacted him since the portal opened, which is crazy to me. And Boise State was on his list. He was the starting center at Michigan last year, averaged about 10-8 or 9-7, something like that. But you dig a little deeper into his bio, he spent 1 year at Link Academy, the same 1 year that Cade Rice was at Link Academy. And so I don't know. I first looked at the list and thought, look at some of the schools on this list. There's no way he's going to Boise State. But keep an eye on Terrace Reed Jr. That would be a heck of an addition in the portal for a big man. I guess the bigger point is they're already out there looking, searching the portal, trying to think about how they can improve this roster for next year. And I know it was a tough finish to the year, Mike Prater, but I do think that if they can add the right pieces here, there's some optimism for the future.
Oh, there's absolutely some optimism for the future. But again, we've been saying that for, a long time, but we don't really want to get into that today. And, I really like, and I've started saying this, and I know a lot of people else have, that as long as he can win the offseason again, that Leon Rice is going to have a better team next year. But, again, it comes down to what they do in March. And I'm still a little sour, still a little bitter from that loss. And certainly watching some games this weekend, you come away with mixed feelings because Boise State could have hung right there with a lot of these teams we saw this weekend. We know that. And Boise State's still not playing this weekend, and we know that as well. So that's the bittersweet part. But I'm glad to see they're already grinding and cranking. And working on the schedule is one thing. I hope they spend a lot of time, whether it's Burns having specific conversations with the committee, because it seems like the committee is always moving the goalposts, and you certainly want to be as accurate as possible when building the schedule. I think next year's schedule might be the most important in school history in terms of finding that responsible balance, which they did this past year. They definitely did. Now they have a mission to go off and change it a little bit better. The committee's told them to play a couple of more. They got the built-in home game already with Clemson, a Sweet 16 Clemson that's coming to Boise next year. So that's always a good sign. So I think the offseason is, while we still have these bittersweet feelings, if the offseason is off to a good start, it seems like it already is, and that's a good thing.
And I know it always is tough, even as me being a Kansas alum, whatever. Like when your team's out of the tournament and you watch these games, it's tough the rest of the way to really get super excited or interested in the tournament. Certainly the day after when I'm sitting at the, Indianapolis airport waiting to come back for a long, it's been a long season. I'm not like super fired up to watch some of those games that were on TV, but you watch that Colorado-Florida game, and I think that people got a little more, at least they should have, a little more understanding of how great Boise State's coaching staff did, how great they actually played, aside from missing 21 layups. I mean, they held Colorado to 60 points in that first 4 game. Colorado goes and gets 102 to beat Florida. You look at all the different things, and you go back, and then Colorado really had a chance till the final minute or two against Marquette. That was a very tied game or close game for the final minute or two against Marquette. I guess it was yesterday or the day before. It was yesterday. And so I know fans don't want to hear it, but the same old Leon and March kind of talk, I just don't, at least in the Colorado game, don't think applied. And they had a great defensive game plan. They held Colorado 20 points below their season average. As I said, they just held them to 42 fewer points than Florida did in their very next game. They out-rebounded Colorado by 10. They were, hustling. They were doing all this stuff. It was, I know it's it still counts. It's still a loss, and you can't miss 21 layups, but it really does come down to a couple of those tip-ins, a couple of those putbacks. If one or two of those threes rattle in when they go 2 of 18 from 3, I mean, they did everything else perfect except make enough shots.
Yeah, and that's the bittersweet part. I mean, yeah, that kind of gives you some comfort, but at the same time, you throw all those stats out there, and it sounds great, and it's true, and they're all accurate, and they're part of the puzzle in the equation. But you keep asking yourself, why can't Boise State just win a game? I mean, what is wrong with this program? What's the one tiny thing missing from this program that just allows them to take everything you just said and actually win one of these games? When we're seeing other teams out there winning these games, and it's not always NCAA veterans, it's Boise State types out there winning these games and getting their one shining moment. So it's frustrating. Yeah. Did Boise State take progress in the regular season? Absolutely. Did they take progress in the postseason? Absolutely. Are they getting closer? Absolutely. But it's just still frustrating and bittersweet. And you see these other teams doing it, and you think, well, Boise State's just as good as these guys. Boise State on paper is just as strong as these guys. Leon Rice is a good coach. And you just sit there in your couch and you watch these games and you try to figure out what's the one thing that's missing that prevents Boise State from actually winning these games. And right now, I don't have an answer. I'm not sure you have an answer. Hell, I'm not even sure Leon Rice and his coaching staff have an answer, but you can't really do much about it but grind and go back to work. And if that means rebuilding a schedule and rebuilding a roster, let the process begin.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Oakland beating Kentucky. You see Yale beating Auburn. Some of these results where you're just like, how are these teams? How is Yale beating Kentucky and Boise State's 0-10? And if you're a fan, I totally get it. It's just you watch these games, or I guess the Oakland beat Kentucky, and those are cool stories, and it happens every year. And I can understand why that would be very frustrating for a Boise State fan to see that every year, where these teams that are, why in Oakland has now two wins in the tournament, I think. And then you have Yale, and I mentioned some of the other schools, and you see a Grand Canyon win a game or two, and they're hanging yesterday, with was Alabama, whoever they were hanging with yesterday. And then, it also goes the other way, Mike, where, the seeding does matter. Like the higher seeds don't play as good at teams in the first round. Like Boise State has only been the quote unquote higher seed or better seed one time, I think, in its history. And that was when they played, they were the 8 seed playing Memphis, and Memphis was actually a favorite in the game. So I don't think Boise State has been a favorite, and they've been an underdog in all 10 of their games. I'm not making an excuse for them. I'm just saying when you're a 10 seed playing a 10 seed, that's different when you're a 4 or 5 playing a 12. And look what happens to San Diego State. Like, they deserve all the credit in the world. They make their own breaks. I get it. But for the second year in a row, they reached the Sweet 16 by playing a 12 seed and a 13 seed. Like, stuff has to break your way, and it just doesn't for Boise State. They always seem to not be on the right side of the seeding, debates. They always seem to play a tough team that's underachieved in the regular season or has NBA type talent or just been a lower seed than they should have been. Like, some teams are just, I don't want to say luckier, but some teams just make their breaks or have better luck. And Boise State just, for whatever reason, has been snakebit in this tournament. And you can, go to put all the blame you want on the head coach for having to be too tight when the game starts, or all the blame on this or that. And I'm sure it all kind of plays into it, whatever you want to say. But if you would have given the other 5 Mountain West teams a chance to play Yale and whoever they played in the who would they play? UAB, I think, in their first game. I don't think that if the other 5 teams would have played Yale and UAB, you would have had more than one Mountain West team win both those games. So it just, kudos to San Diego State. They deserve all the props. And like I said, they've earned it by this point, the benefit of the doubt being a 5 seed. But all that stuff comes into play. And here's San Diego State in the Sweet 16, second year in a row, playing only double-digit seeds in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. And again, it goes back to all those questions without answers. And I guess the first thing that would come to mind for me is Boise State can control some of that stuff. And I'm not sure if one game late in the season matters, because the selection committee looks at a whole body of work. But, if you want to try to figure out one better seed line or 2 better seed lines, just don't lose in the first round of your conference tournament. And I know they ran into a buzzsaw in New Mexico, and that game was just kind of ugly quick, and it had a lot of momentum, but that's where you kind of have to shine. And they didn't shine in that conference tournament. And then they got stuck with, and Colorado, and I know you believe this because I heard you say it on not only on this show, but on our show at Idaho Sports Talk, that the matchup with Colorado seemed fair in terms of 2 teams playing against each other in the first round of the NCAA tournament. If you put 2 blind resumes, I was okay with the matchup. I was even okay with the seed line. I was still offended and still am offended by the destination sent to Dayton. But, again, that was a court and it was a neutral game, so it really didn't matter that too much. But again, all these things are frustrating. All these things are crazy. I guarantee you that Leon Rice and his basketball staff and the guys that are coming back are really frustrated and spending their entire weekend looking and asking all these same questions. I'm not even sure how much basketball they watched. Maybe they watched a ton and asked the same questions that we did, or maybe they just ditched it all together and just kind of went into next year mode. But it's good to see the schedule. It's good to see the roster, and it takes the next season starts right now, and it's crazy that they have to already go back to work.
Yeah, and it is crazy. The Colorado thing, yes, I do agree that that's the type of team you would have had to play in that spot. The fact that it was the first four made it seem a little tougher to take, I guess, when they didn't even get to the fun on Thursday or Friday. If they had lost that game on Thursday or Friday, it still would have, obviously stunk and been a negative. Maybe it wouldn't have been seen as quite as bad of a season or quite as bad of whatever if they were at least in the main draw of the tournament. But when you have to go to the first four and then you lose that one right away, I think that added to the angst amongst fans and stuff that they couldn't even get with this season. This team couldn't even get to the round of 64 with the tournament. And so I get it. And again, somebody said on here the Butler and Virginia Tech losses really cost us in March. The one that I think hurt them the most was Washington State. I mean, they had Washington State beat. And again, I'm not, blaming it on the refs, whatever, but they were down. They were right there in that game the entire way against Washington State. I don't think anybody knew at the time that Washington State was going to end up being as good as they were. So at the time, it was kind of seen as a bad loss. But Boise State was down 1 with 10 seconds left, and Roddy Anderson drives to the hoop, and I'm not saying what anyone else doesn't know. The replays show it. They missed a clear foul right across the side of his arm. That, who knows if he makes the 2 free throws? Who knows if they go to overtime? I don't know what happens, but I'm just saying the Washington State game was right there for the taking. If Roddy Anderson makes that layup or gets fouled, makes the free throws, if they beat Washington State, that I think one more non-conference win would have really helped their seeding in this case. And considering Washington State got a 7, they would have been more in the mix of battling with them for a seed. I think that was the one to me, because the other ones weren't necessarily. The Virginia Tech one was a 2-point game with 3 or 4 minutes left. They ended up losing that by 7. I think the Butler game was tough, but the Wazoo one to me was the one that they really probably were kicking themselves that they couldn't have back, because they had a lot of chances in that game and were not able to pull it off. But yeah, you're right. You earlier in the season, whether it's conference tournament, whatever, you win 1 or 2 more games, you're not in that situation. And I'm sure next year that's going to be the case. And my understanding is, Mike, they are going to schedule aggressively again. They think, again, the schedule is right there for them. They just didn't win enough of those games. And so you can debate what's better, the blowout wins against the worst teams or the better teams playing tougher schedule, but losing a couple. I think based on what they already have on the books, my understanding is Washington State is going to come back and play in downtown Boise again. My understanding is the Clemson game's happening at home. They are going to San Francisco with the return game. And they were, a quad 2 game at home. That could be a borderline quad 1. Probably, I think they finished top 75. So I think if that game was at San Francisco this year, it would have been quad 1. If they're a solid WCC team. And then they're looking to maybe do the Idaho Falls game again. I haven't heard who that would be against. And then the tournament in the Cayman Islands is going to have some quality teams, but they got 3 or 4 games left still to try to schedule, and we'll see what happens with that. But my understanding is they think they're going to be pretty good if it all plays out, and they think they're going to schedule aggressively again and take another stab at this, because I think they had it set up perfectly. They just needed to win 1 or 2 or more of those games.
Yeah, no doubt about it. If they don't win the Washington State game and then maybe won a game in that first round of that Mountain West tournament, I think we'd be talking about a completely different seed line and a completely different situation, and maybe that sets up Boise State. I don't know, but I certainly get all that. It's still frustrating. It's still bittersweet, and I said this last August and September and October, and I just need to see one win in March, and it's really frustrating. And here we go again for a whole nother year of the same questions and the same nonsense. And again, Leon Rice is building a better program, a better roster. He's got a lot of work to do this year. There's no way he's going to keep this entire roster together. I'm assuming he's going to lose at least 1 or 2. He's going to add 1 or 2. There's not a lot of parts to replace. He's got a lot of parts coming back with this roster, and that's a good sign. But I'm not surprised that we haven't heard a name so far, because the transfer portal is open, which is ridiculous this time of year. Yes. At least get through the first week of the tournament. Maybe you can open it up this morning, but I don't even like that. Let's get through the whole damn tournament. If you can't wait until April 20th or whatever the day is, then that's too bad. But Boise State hasn't lost anybody yet that we know of. Keep your fingers crossed, and maybe they can go off and chase one of those big men or maybe one of those shooting guards, and we can talk about how you're going to reinvent this roster.
Well, a job just opened up that I think is going to be intriguing. And we talk about who's coming back next year. I'm good at teasing, Mike Prater. A Northwest basketball coaching job just opened up, which I think could be of interest to some folks in this town and this fan base to pay attention to. We'll talk about that in just a second. But first, need to tell you about our friends over at Cutwater Spirits. More than 35 flavors of pre-mixed premium cocktails. Pick one up at your local gas station or grocery store, like 2 for $7. Great deal. Perfect to watch the basketball action this time of year. RoePaint.com just painted my entire house. Did a tremendous job. ROEPaint.com, whether it's interior, exterior painting, the concrete coatings, RoePaint.com will take care of you. ROEPaint.com. Check them out. RoePaint.com. ICCU, mobile e-branch online banking, the best, the easiest in the business. You go into the ICCU branch one time to set up your account. You pretty much never have to go back in again. You can do it all on your computer, all on your phone. It's so easy to use. And they're supporting Tyson Degenhart with an NIL deal, so you can return the favor and switch your banking needs to ICCU at ICCU.com. Ridley's Family Market, shopridleys.com. More than 13 locations in the state of Idaho and the surrounding states. Download their new Shop Ridley's app and get up to savings up to 40% at the checkout line. Check them out at shopridleys.com. And, of course, our friend Matt Bauscher, Bauscher Real Estate. The number one ranked realtor in the Treasure Valley is Matt Bauscher. No home is too big or too small for Matt and his team, so make sure you check them out, BauscherRealEstate.com. And where we've been working with them, Mike Prater, and they're doing an outstanding job. We're very appreciative. I knew Matt obviously did something right with how the sales were going for him, but now that I've been working with his team as we get ready to potentially sell our house, it's been we're not moving out of town. We're just maybe moving to a different house. Been very impressed with him and his team and what they're doing so far. Okay, reports now surfacing, Mike Prater, that Washington State coach Kyle Smith is heading to Stanford. That opens the Washington State job. That just happened moments ago. That will, of course, potentially bring Leon Rice's name into account as a Washington State alum. He has turned down Washington State 2 times before already. I'm going to go out there and say that I don't think this time that's going to be a serious consideration for Leon. Maybe they offer so much money that it's still worth it. But if you remember right, Washington State is now going to the WCC for basketball for the next year or two. That's a step down from the Mountain West where Leon Rice is right now. I think, the uncertainty of Washington State's basketball future. I know it's his alma mater. I know it was very tough for him, not once, but twice to turn them down already. The one that would worry me is every second until Danny Sprinkle to Washington is official, Mike Prater. If you want to be a worried boy, if you're a huge Leon Rice fan and you don't want him leaving Boise State, I would say the only job, in my opinion, right now that you need to seriously worry about is Washington. Once Danny Sprinkle goes there, then I think that's that. But I do think that if Danny Sprinkle were to go to Vanderbilt or one of these other jobs that are also open, the Washington job would be intriguing, I think, for a lot of reasons, and there could be a connection there. Just me speculating with Leon Rice, but I don't think the Washington State job right now, Mike Prater, is a better job than Boise State. I don't know if you think there's any chance Leon would go back to his alma mater here.
Yeah, I can't speak for the second half of that question. I don't want to jump into his mind. That's a crazy, complicated world. But I can answer the first half of that question. Hell no. Boise State's a 10 times better job than Washington State right now because of everything you just laid out. So at very best, it's a lateral move. And I think Leon Rice is much smarter than that. So there's no way that the Washington State, maybe the attraction of your alma mater, but I don't buy that. I think Leon Rice knows that he's got a great thing going on here. So I don't think he's willing to take his family right now and move them to Pullman, Washington for a job that's probably lesser than Boise State. 2 years in the West Coast Conference competing against his best friend, who he's said many, 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 many times that he doesn't even have any interest in playing him in a one-off game. Why would he want to compete with him for titles and championships? I think that's a ridiculous notion. So, and then after that, we don't even know what the future is financially, especially financially, of Washington State and certainly Oregon State. So you see the ongoing effects of Washington State and Oregon State losing their Pac-12 status, and coaches just bailing. Are you kidding me? Stanford? That's not a great job. That's a guy who's just trying to get out of town and get himself a job in a conference that's not the WCC. So that's a weird one for me. The Washington one, I know apparently, according to reports, that he's interviewed for that job. That surprised me a little bit. I'll go back to what I said before, and I know that this isn't really that popular, but I don't think he's that marketable for that specific job. Sprinkle certainly seems like the head guy up there, the associate head coach, I forget his name, is into play as well, and he was a very popular associate head coach that could come into play. So I'm not sure Leon Rice is going to end up in Washington, and I think he'd be crazy to end up at Washington State.
I don't think he's going to end up at Washington. I've just been told by numerous people that would, have an insight to his thinking, I guess you could say, that there were, if the two jobs that would intrigue him more than any other, Oregon and Washington. Oregon, obviously, he has ties there, but Dana Altman's not going anywhere right now. Washington, the Seattle area, his whole family, everybody from the Northwest area. The fact that Max Rice has finished playing, I do think if there was ever a time for him to try to go get that last new challenge, new payday, this would theoretically be it. Does he think they've reached some ceiling in terms of the Boise State and just can't win that tournament game? I don't know. I have not talked to Leon directly about this, and I don't, they have the issue now where their athletic director just left at Washington also.
Yes.
It sounds like Danny Sprinkle there's a done deal, but, again, I'm just saying until Danny Sprinkle is announced at Washington, that possibility is open. And if they were to, move past Sprinkle and Leon Rice were a candidate there, I think that would be a very interesting one to watch play out. Because I do think, as I said, based on what I've been told, that might be one that might. And if we saw that podcast say he already interviewed, then obviously he's at least somewhat interested if that were to be a possibility. So I don't think he goes anywhere. I think he comes back. He's talked so much about what being at a program for so long does to with the alumni and then the donors and all that kind of stuff and the connections you make. I'm not sure at age 60 he wants to go start that part of it over. But with how easy it is now with the transfer portal, you're not looking at 2, 3, 4 year rebuilds, Mike, like you used to be when you would leave for another job. He could go in the transfer portal and get a whole new roster and be competitive right away. I don't know if the Big Ten is appealing or not appealing given the travel and all that kind of stuff. Kyle Smith, by the way, is now an ACC coach at Stanford.
Oh,
ACC.
That's right. That's right. I forgot. Oh my gosh. That's ACC. That's ridiculous. You're right. I said Big Ten too, didn't I?
I don't know if you did or not. I wasn't trying to correct you. It's crazy to think about that. Stanford is now in the ACC, and but from the WCC and what he was probably making at Washington State, and how many, again, you catch lightning in a bottle for a couple of years there with what he did. I mean, what is there sustained long-term basketball success possible at Washington State given the move down to the WCC for a year or two? And then I think we all believe they'll probably end up in the Mountain West or some group of that. I don't know what it's going to be called or look like, but I mean, in a couple of years, they're going to be back playing with these same schools. I just don't think that is a better job right now than Boise State. So And they came pretty hard after him before. He had the chance to go there. He turned down like tripling his back when he was only making $500,000 or $600,000 at Boise State 7 or 8 years ago. He could have tripled his pay at Washington State. Decided not to do it. Didn't think it was the right time. I believe before they hired Kyle Smith, they talked to him again. I believe, and so he's had some opportunities there. I'm sure that's appealing to go to your alma mater and things like that. But the current state of their program, I don't think personally makes them a serious threat for Leon Rice, but who knows? Maybe we'll have to see on that. But assuming Leon Rice does stay, Mike Prater, assuming everything, happens and they can bring back, the pieces you expect them to bring back. I mean, Omar Stanley, I know he's already transferred once, but you got to believe that there's some back channels with what he did this year at Boise State. There's a lot of schools that would probably want Omar Stanley. Again, that's just the way it works with college basketball right now. Assuming Omar Stanley, Chibuzo Abo, Tyson Degenhart, Roddy Anderson all come back to Boise State and don't either go pro or get lured away and transfer somewhere. Assuming they all come back, and let's be honest, in terms of the big-time guys, Boise State's done a pretty good job of keeping those kind of guys. They've lost some reserve players that went on to play like Ray J. Dennis, elsewhere. But the guys that are veteran, multi-year starters coming back, they haven't really been poached too much, a la Talon Green going to Arkansas yet. Assuming those guys come back, what do you think they still need? What do you want to see them do in the offseason? How can I'm not going to use the super team reference, but how can this team be better than this year? And what do you think they need?
Well, for me, it starts with replacing Cam Martin and then going out. I mean, you kind of it's both spectrums. You want the big guy, the Cam Martin, and I think that there's going to be plenty of possibilities there. Whether they get the Michigan guy, which seems like a stretch, but obviously there's a personal connection there. And I think I may have even been told over the weekend that that Michigan kid may even have some kind of connection to Omar Stanley, if I remember right. But
Omar Stanley played at that school also, but it was the year before Cade Rice. So I don't think that I don't think they overlap, but I could be wrong.
That makes some sense then, because I was told that maybe Omar Stanley might be connected as well. But yeah, if you could get that Michigan kid in here, that would be spectacular. But that seems like a high ceiling. You need to replace Cam Martin. And Cam Martin was pretty damn good, especially after he got over that shoulder injury and finished that last month of the season really strong. And if you could just get that guy, I mean, I don't need the big monster NCAA going to the NBA guy. I need Cam Martin, and that's certainly doable in the transfer portal, which is over 1,000 players right now. So go off and find a big man, and then maybe go off and find a shooting guard. That's what I want most on this team, a shooter. I don't care if he's a shooting center, a shooting forward. I want the Golke kid, and I'm sure Golke is, or whatever the hell his name is, from Oakland. For every time that he doesn't go crazy on an NCAA tournament game on national TV, he's got plenty of off nights and is not the superstar that he is. So I just want somebody who can shoot the ball, open up the perimeter, open up the inside, let guys like Tyson Degenhart and Omar Stanley and the new big guy roam around. So a shooter and a big guy, and that's really all I need. But I will say this. I'm convinced, just because it's the nature of the beast anymore, they're going to lose at least one player. I'm not sure. We said the other day at Idaho Sports Talk that the only, in my opinion, and in my heart, the only two people that are safe are Tyson Degenhart and Roddy Anderson. I think and I'm not even sure why I'm saying that, but I think Roddy Anderson is safe. I don't think he's going anywhere. Tyson Degenhart is safe. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think those other guys are going to stick around. The Omar Stanleys, you talked about him, but you never know. I don't know these guys that well enough. They're going to lose a player. They're maybe even going to lose two players. They're going to have to go off and chase 3 or 4. So I think there's going to be a lot of work to be done on this roster, and we'll see how it shakes out. But hopefully he can keep everybody and then just go find a couple of missing pieces and get back to work.
Remember last year they lost Pavle, Kuzmanovic, Sada Nganga, and Burke Smith, 3 guys that rarely played at the end of the bench, and replaced them with Cam Martin, Omar Stanley, and Roddy Anderson. It was one of the biggest 3-for-3 trades that you literally could have made. I mean, they have the opportunity to do that again, Mike Prater, and you still have, Roddy Anderson and Omar Stanley still around from last year's trade. And again, we'll see. Jace Whiting, not sure about him. Kobe Young, not sure about him. RJ Keene, not sure about him. Those are the 3 guys that didn't really contribute much this year. Whiting contributed. That's not fair to say, but probably didn't play as much as he would have liked to, and especially down the stretch. I think he only played 2 minutes in the tournament game against Colorado. So, maybe he just wants to win. Maybe he likes it here. It's fairly close to BYU and he stays. Maybe he wants to play more. I have no insight on that, but I think those are 3 guys to keep an eye on. I think Meadow knows his role will be bigger next year. I would expect him to stay. They love what they have in Chris Lockett coming off the red shirt. Emmanuel Ugbo coming off the red shirt as well. A 6'8" guy they really like. For me, it's a shooter, another sharp shooting 3-point shooter. And they need another playmaking guard. They need another guy like Roddy Anderson that can cross his guy over, blow by him, get to the basket, and create his own shot. Now, maybe that's the same person. Maybe you can get a KJ Simpson type from Colorado. Not him, but his type of game where you're a great shooter, but you also can get to the rack and do some things shooting the ball. They need someone that's a threat from the outside. But again, another guy, Roddy Anderson is the only guy on this team right now that really can blow by somebody and get to the basket and create his own shot whenever he wants to. Chibuzo Abo in the tournament got to the rim a little bit, but those were more on slashes and things. He's not necessarily crossing a guy over at the top of the key and driving. So I'd like to see another playmaker type guard / shooter. Maybe that's the same guy. Maybe it's not. And then they definitely need another big, whether it's someone to, a Cam Martin type would be perfect, whether it's this Reed kid, whatever. Stanley, again, if Stanley comes back, they're going to have a hard time getting somebody that wants to come in here and start looking at what Stanley did. So that might make a guy like Reed a little tough to get. If Reed started at Michigan, I don't know why he would transfer here to be the 6th man. So that's going to be a little tough for them to sell, I think, knowing if Stanley comes back and what the playing time is going to be for somebody like that, which could make it a little difficult. And maybe that makes them have to, go a little lower in terms of the ceiling of the guy they get. We'll see on that. But I also think they need to just continue to add to the depth too. Just get quality guys coming off the bench. And maybe they already have that. Maybe that's going to be who we talked about, Lockett and Ugbo and Andrew Meadow. I mean, I'm very intrigued by Andrew Meadow. Anytime he came in there, I really liked the small things we got. We just didn't get to see him play a lot. And unfortunately, him and Tyson just play very similar spots. And so they got to try to find him some other spots. And his time is coming as early as this year. But you got to find, I haven't scoured all the rosters in the Mountain West, Mike Prater, but you're not going to be able to find, I don't think, a better returning trio if they all come back than Abo, Degenhart, and Stanley to begin with. You throw in Roddy Anderson, 4 starters potentially coming back. I mean, if you get the 4 starters to come back and you hang on to Meadow and you add a backup big and a shooting guard / playmaker, I mean, I know fans don't want to hear it. As you said, it's the same thing every year. Oh, wait till next year. This team should be good. I get it. But I mean, I legitimately think that's a preseason top 25, Mountain West favorite type of team if they bring all these guys back and add a couple nice pieces.
Yeah, if that's true. I mean, if you paint that picture, again, I still believe that they're going to lose 1 or 2 of those guys. So we'll see how it shakes out. It's not going to be that smooth, that easy. It just never is anymore. And you're getting excited ahead of me right now. So I'm not quite ready to go that far. Certainly preseason top 25 is a ridiculous thought, knowing with this program right now, they're not worthy of that. And I'm not saying that as a negative cheap shot. And I know you didn't mean that they're a top 25 program. I know they're getting close, but they still got some work to do. But yeah, if it plays out like that, that'd be awesome. Let's see how it plays out. And let's see what kind of job that he can do. And of course, you're going to ask me these questions in August and September and October and November next year. And it's always going to come back to, okay, here we go. What are we going to do in March? I think Leon Rice, again, won the offseason. We're having this presumed conversation right now and going into a new season with a better schedule and Clemson coming to town. I think it's all there. And I trust Leon Rice to put it all together with a couple of wrinkles. But let's see what happens next year. And let's certainly see what happens in 11 and a half months from now.
I do think there'll be interest for Stanley to go elsewhere. I do think there'll be, I mean, even Degenhardt every year has been getting, interest. I just don't think he's the kind of guy that would leave. I don't think Stanley is either, based on the small conversations I've had with him, Mike, and just his character and stuff. I don't think he's a guy that would jump after 1 year. But we're kidding ourselves. We don't know these guys and what's going on in their family situation and how much money they're potentially getting offered to go elsewhere. So I agree that I guess everything's on the table. I think Abo is more likely to go pro than he is transferred to another school. But I certainly think, all those guys are going to test the waters of the NBA draft and then kind of do their workouts and see what happens. And yeah, I agree. It's not a given by any means that all those guys come back. But if they do, I think you could be building a roster that I said on your show, and I know you backed off a little. You didn't totally agree with, but I think the potential is there for this roster to be significantly better next season if everything falls their way. And there's a lot of ifs. I get it. It's a long way to go, but I think we could look up in mid-June and say this roster looks significantly better. And I guess the fact that there's even a possibility of that happening should be exciting, I guess, for Boise State fans moving forward. I do want to talk football in the final couple minutes. We got here Mike Prater, but I want to thank Lithia Ford of Boise. LithiaFordBoise.com. Check them out. The best inventory. You can view that inventory online at LithiaFordBoise.com. You can do what the Raines family did. We had 2 trucks we liked. We did all the research online ahead of time. Saved us so much time. Went in, test drove them, and purchased this one. We were on our way. So check them out. View that full inventory at LithiaFordBoise.com. Taco Bell, we appreciate TacoBellWorks.com. They are hiring, and you get half your wages the very next day after your shift and free food while you work. So if you need a job and you don't want to have to wait around 3 weeks for that first paycheck, Taco Bell can help you out. Check them out, TacoBellWorks.com, all the freestanding Treasure Valley Taco Bell stores. And again, they are directly funding the student-athlete scholarships for the men's and women's basketball programs with their endowed scholarships. So they're supporting Boise State. They're supporting the local community. So think Taco Bell for your next meal. And again, we appreciate the SON Management Group and the Nicolason family at Taco Bell. The Blue and Orange Store, Travis Hawk's been texting with him a little bit this morning. BlueandOrangeStore.com. All your Boise State gear, shirts, hats, the NIL gear. They still got some Mountain West Football Championship gear that's discounted now. Check them out, the Blue and Orange Store, the second floor of the Boise Town Square Mall there next to Pro Image. If you're not in the Boise area, you can get free shipping on any order over $40 at theblueandorangestore.com. And if you need a job, what about the trucking industry? Trucking industry is hiring right now. It's booming. And again, transcomservice.com can help you with the permits and things you need to get out there towing that first load in no time. So 75% of folks, about 75%, go out of business to try to do it themselves. So let the professionals handle it for you. The DOT overweight permits, all that good stuff. Check them out at transcomservice.com. And Bronco Brew Coffee, broncobrew.coffee. Check them out. BroncoBrew.coffee for you're helping Boise State, you're helping the NIL game, and you're helping support a sponsor at Bronco Nation News here as well. BroncoBrew.coffee. Mike Prater, want to announce a new show that is coming for the next 5 weeks here during spring practice. Riley and Rid. They did it once. They had enough fun, and they're back. So Riley Smith, former Boise State tight end, and longtime assistant coach Kent Riddle, they're going to be teaming up on Thursdays here through spring ball, talking Boise State football. I believe DJ Schramm is going to be their special guest this Thursday, and they got some other former coaches and players expected to come on. I believe they got Scott Huff lined up as well. So Riley and Rid, nice dynamic there. They have good chemistry. Kent Riddle, Riley Smith, and so we'll be they're going to be battling ball talk. Johnny and Sanford here. We got dueling football shows in the evening now. Johnny and Sanford will be on Sunday nights throughout the spring, and then with ball talk, and then Thursday nights at 8:00. Riley and Rid through spring ball, and so hopefully you'll catch that out and bring your football questions. And they did a little test show a week or two ago, Mike, and kind of a unique I guess a perspective of a longtime coach and a guy that just finished on the roster, and they've got some good behind the scenes stories and things to talk about, and I'm looking forward to hearing them the rest of the spring.
Yeah, a couple cool dudes. So that'll be a lot of fun. So the coaching perspective, the player perspective, and unplugged because they're not being paid by Boise State, and they could dive into the issues of spring ball and kind of get us some football stuff. So that's cool. I'm looking forward to both those shows. That'll be fun.
Well, that'll be Thursday at 8 for the first episode of Riley and Rid, or I guess the first official episode. They did a test episode last week. And go back last night if you missed it. It's on the YouTube channel at Bronco Nation News. Mike Sanford, Johnny Mallory with Ball Talk. They got into a lot of their observations, Johnny's observations from the first week of practice, but also talking about George Helani. You guys had Mike Sanford on your show. He was there at the Combine and saw George Helani, and they talked a lot about his chances. And tomorrow, Mike Prater, big day for George Helani. Obviously, Cade Beresford, a couple other guys are there, but the headliner, George Helani, trying to extend that streak for Boise State players getting drafted. A big pro day, a big opportunity tomorrow at Boise State for George Helani.
Yeah, that'll be kind of fun. So I'm not sure exactly what his strategy is, if he's going to run or what he's going to do. He had a pretty good combine performance, and I don't think he has to put a lot out there on the table tomorrow. So whether he's there to do a couple of drills, all the drills, just offer some support, maybe all the above. It'll be fun to see George Helani again. Hopefully we all get a chance to talk to him and see where he is. I know he's resisted all interviews before as he's focused on getting ready. Certainly understand that, but that'll be fun tomorrow. Pro Day is always kind of a cool environment, and I know they're getting back at practice tomorrow as well. So I guess football season or basketball season around here wraps up today, and football season starts tomorrow, BJ.
Yeah, it does. And it's interesting. They usually do the pro day on a day they don't have practice. And so I don't know if that changed because of the being a week late with the start in spring ball when they hired Dirk Cutter or what. But a little unique, I guess, that we're going to be going to part of practice tomorrow. And then they'll be doing the weightlifting and some of the testing in the weight room while the team is still practicing. And then they'll move over to the indoor after practice. But you won't have as big of a crowd, I guess, in the weight room there because a lot of the former teammates come in and they'll still be on the field practicing. So a little different dynamic there tomorrow with Pro Day. But Mike, again, we had the 3 practices and then the week off. It's just kind of a weird break. Now they get back at it Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday for the next 4 weeks. What's your week 2, week 3, for the second, I guess, half or, 3/4 of spring ball here? What are your storylines still that you're going to be looking at now that we have the first couple of practices out of the way?
Yeah, it starts with quarterback, and I'm not sure we're looking for answers, but we all have millions of questions and just kind of see how that rotation evolves. And Maddox Madsen showed up those first 3 days and blew us all away with as much participation as he did. He was on almost every single drill that they had coming off that knee injury. So keep looking at the evolution of Maddox Madsen, keep looking at the evolution of Malachi Nelson and how those guys are rotated, how they're used in team drills. And I know we get a lot of access to practice this year, so we'll certainly keep an eye on that quarterback position. I can't. We're not going to come away with any answers just watching some practice, but get to know these guys a little bit more and their habits and the way they play football and some of their skill sets. So looking forward to that. And for me, it's really just keeping an eye on the quarterbacks and just hoping everybody stays injury free and getting to know some of these new players. And hopefully we get to talk to a couple of them. But I'm looking forward to tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun, and Pro Days is fun as well. So tomorrow's going to be a really cool day.
Looking forward to that. Looking forward to May 31st for the Bronco Nation News Golf Tournament. We're getting closer to putting the foursomes on sale, but if you played last year and you won in, please reach out to me. You can have your spot reserved ahead of time if you played last year in the BNN Golf Tournament. It's May 31st at Timberstone. If you want to sponsor a hole, you can also reserve a foursome that way in advance of it going on sale to the general public. We're expecting this to sell out again. I know KTIK is going to be out there again broadcasting, going to be a lot of fun. I believe for the first time we're going to have some members of the football coaching coaching staff in attendance as well, Mike Prater, as opposed to basketball. It's going to be a lot of fun May 31st at Timberstone Golf Course, so save the date. It'll also be a lot of fun 3 to 6 today on Idaho Sports Talk. What do we got coming up today, Mike?
Oh, we're going to talk a lot about the NCAA tournament. We're going to talk to Kobe Blaine, who's going for his own national championship. He's in the Final Four, College of Idaho tonight, and then all points go to tomorrow with Boise State football and pro day. Hopefully we all get a chance to talk to George Alani, and then the big one tomorrow. Khalil Shakir's in town coming up, and I think he's in town to kind of hang out with Billy Bowens and Steph Cobbs, and some of the wide receivers are going to be a part of pro day tomorrow, and he's going to join us in studio tomorrow from 5 to 5:30, and we haven't had a chance to talk to Shaq and catch up with one of our all-time favorite Boise State football players. So Shaq tomorrow in the studio, and then just chasing down football and following basketball storylines and Leon Rice, and certainly getting after the March Madness again starting on Thursday.
Well, looking forward to it. Again, San Diego State, the final hope for the Mountain West. They're in the Sweet 16, but they've got to play UConn, last year's defending national champion. But already a record year for the Mountain West. 3 teams win a game for the first time in history. The 10 guaranteed units now. That's $20 million made for the Mountain West this season. That breaks down to about $300,000 per year per school for the next 6 years. So maybe wasn't the postseason success that as good as they were hoping for, but still a record year, still a step forward in the right direction for the Mountain West. And we'll see San Diego State, quick turnaround for them on Thursday night against UConn. But I know you will be continuing to follow that as we move forward here. Mike, appreciate you. Appreciate JP for getting us on the air. Appreciate everybody for watching, for commenting, for supporting the sponsors, for subscribing, and helping keep this BNN train rolling here. So appreciate everybody. Have a great rest of your Monday. Make sure you listen 3 to 6 today to Idaho Sports Talk. And Jay Tuss and I'll be back 9 a.m. Probably. I'll have to think about with practice tomorrow. Always love it when you don't think about something and then you think about it on the air. Well, at some point tomorrow, Jay Tuss and I will hopefully have a Tuesday edition of Bronco Nation News Live. We'll have full coverage, interviews from pro day and practice. I think Spencer Danielson is talking after practice tomorrow as well. So looking forward to that. So thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your Monday. Thanks, Prater. We'll talk to you guys later. Bronco Nation News Live here at Bronco Nation News.